All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm getting good at this intro, man. Jeez, timing it up perfect. But today is Thursday, the 21st. We got one more day going into Friday, and then we got one more week of 2023, and then we'll head into 2024, in which I believe is going to be a pretty crazy year for a number of reasons. But um, for tonight's live session, I figured let's do some tickers. Let's chart them out. We can look at a higher time frame, and if we get anything that looks real good, we can crunch it down and look even smaller. I do have a bunch of requests already that I want to run down and run through, and hopefully they overlap with the ones that you want to take a look at as well. But if you do have any that you want to see charted, you can either comment them in this live stream here, or if you're on YouTube, you can just directly do it into the stream on the bottom. Um, but first and foremost, as always, let me briefly go through the indices. And last night I had hopped on here really quick for about just a quick 20-minute call, but I wanted to just kind of go through my idea for the indices and how I would use it was yesterday's intense sell-off, how I could use that to kind of base my decision moving forward. And ultimately, and unfortunately, really didn't come with anything noteworthy. If we are to take a look really quickly at the daily chart, the one thing or the one key takeaway from what I was talking on last night was this was the imbalance that I had mapped. This is where we currently were. And obviously, you'll notice that there is no imbalance here, right? So the imbalance that would have formed following that big sell off on Tuesday, or what was it, Wednesday afternoon? Jeez. Wednesday afternoon, it would have looked something like this. As you notice, our candle closed back above this 16,912 level. And as a result of that, we actually did not create a bearish imbalance in the daily. And still at this point, it remains a waiting game, unfortunately. There's two things that give it away for me as to when the range is set, and that would either be a bearish imbalance on the daily and a bullish trend. So what I mean by that is and let me just see if I could cherry pick an example of what I'm talking about. Here it is. Good. It's a recurring thing, so you can go back on any chart and do this as well. But when you're awaiting a range to be set, right? With what would that high be, right? I'm not in the business of trying to pick absolute tops and bottoms. I think that is extremely difficult, and I think too many traders get caught up on that. When in reality, if you have a good idea of the direction based on something that is shown on the chart, like an imbalance, just because you miss a couple points of it, it's not really going to kill you, right? You miss a couple, but you're still getting the meat of that move, which is really what I target. So, but this is an example where this is a bearish volume imbalance or a gap down that is showing urgency to move lower. And as a result, there's the proof in the pudding. But I need some sort of imbalance to form in order for me to feel pretty good about a range being set. Now, the second thing is if it's a slow grinder down, which I could check really quickly and see if I have some sort of cherry picked example here. But if you get just a slow grinder down, no imbalance is formed like so right here. Ready? You'll notice there's no imbalances formed in this move down here, right? So when price does end up getting down into your discount bullish imbalance, it can be a pretty smooth run as a result because there is nothing in the way. Essentially, there's no bearish imbalance, and it needs to work up and through. With that imbalance being formed, that typically will lead to just more time. It takes time to get through these imbalances. It doesn't typically do it in a one-stop shop where it just rips right up and through. So those are just two examples of what I look for in terms of setting a range and when it is time for me to consider some sort of pullback, right? And again, at the moment, still, market has not tipped its hand to me whatsoever. That's on a much more brief, I guess, smaller little price run. Now, looking at this from a higher time frame, it is interesting to see that not just on Nasdaq, but on a number of names, despite that vicious sell-off Wednesday afternoon, not much has really changed on anything, and that's something that's noteworthy to me. Yes, it was Definitely aggressive to the downside, right? No one's denying that. But if we look at the general structure of a lot of things, not much has changed. So to me, that's noteworthy. There are a few names that we took out buy side liquidity or their recent swing high, and the draw that I was targeting for these runs. And um, but there are still a few that have not. And I'm interested to see after taking out buy side liquidity or sell side liquidity, it can go either way. But whenever you take one of those out, I'm just waiting to see what's the first imbalance going to form, right? If we have an imbalance to the upside, which scary enough on the weekly, this would be a bullish imbalance, right? So barring anything crazy tomorrow that we don't finish below 16,327, we're going to create a weekly bullish imbalance up through buy side liquidity, which to me would indicate, a retracement back down into it is really what I would look for in order for that long entry. But that's that's essentially what I'd be looking for at that point. Um, but on the flip side of that, you get something like Apple. Let me just see right here. Let me pull up Apple and I'll explain the other side of it, where you sweep liquidity and you create some sort of bearish imbalance to the downside. When that occurs, typically that's going to end up leading to some sort of reversal. So here's the example, right? We didn't get an imbalance up above buy side liquidity right here on Apple, right here. Let me just mark it. The levels will come up too. Um, but here it is. Ready? Boom. Okay, so if you take a look at Apple right here, and you'll notice this high was taken out with this wick right here. And look what happened immediately after taking out buy side liquidity. We had a weekly bearish volume imbalance down. Right? It doesn't look the same as the other volume imbalances that I was showing you, right? But here's the difference. Look where our close of last week's candle was. Look where our open was, right? That's a gap down. So that is a form of an imbalance, right? So realistically, if somebody's bearish on, say, Apple, you really wouldn't want it to be an up close above last week's uh, close, in my opinion, on a weekly time frame. Um, but as a result of that, to me, range could be set here, and if the range is set here, we could get down into this imbalance, maybe a little bounce, but ultimately, I'm expecting price to retrace back down to discount or 50% and below, right? Where at that point you have a bullish breaker right here, which is a low, high, lower low, move up through. We would expect this breaker candle to act as a level of support moving forward. You also have a weekly bullish imbalance right down here, and this goes down to 173, right? So really tomorrow will be telling for me in the situation of Apple. And this is really I know a couple of people actually had requested this one, but this is ultimately how I'm coming to most of my decisions, whether it's on a large scale or even on a smaller scale. Um, so let's just see. Okay, SPY. Yes, so SPY is going to be very similar. Gustavo. Um, Let me just pop on over here. We're loading up. You know what? Here it is. Okay, so very similar to NASDAQ. If we take a look at ES, I definitely have this charted. It's just loading up right now. I also have to go back over and here we go. We got a bunch of requests that I'm going to get to, I promise. But here is ES. And again, very similarly to NASDAQ, that on the weekly time frame, despite this, we swept buy side liquidity or take out a recent high, but all the while, it looks like we're going to create a bullish imbalance, and this one's in the form of a fair value gap where you have a wick, body, wick, and then in between this region that I'm about to identify right here, you're going to notice that there's no wicks in that specific price range, and as a result of that, we would view that as an imbalance, right? It's also very interesting. Just look where we closed thus far on the weekly. Pretty crazy, huh? Right? Bodies respecting previous bearish imbalance. I think this bearish imbalance goes all the way back to 2021. Yeah, it does right here. Or 222, sorry. January of 2022. There it is. Here's your first attempt up and through rejection. Second attempt, bodies reject. Wicks are going to give you a heart attack. but bodies will tell you the story. There's your rejection. One more time for good measure, getting up into that bearish imbalance. And now at this point, for bears, it is pretty scary. We've gotten into this imbalance one, two, three separate occasions, and on the fourth, we're creating an imbalance up and through. To me, that's calling for all-time highs on the adjusted ES contract, which is up 5,028. Numbers aren't going to line up perfectly with SPX or SPY, but same type of criteria in terms of that price move that's going to occur. So yeah, I know it sounds crazy especially after Wednesdays, really. But to me, just really seemed like a shakeout. I don't believe today on Nasdaq we ended up sweeping. We have relative equal lows on a smaller time frame. The 15-minute is what I'm looking at, and here I'll just show you that really quickly. And that's actually quite a bit down. Right here, it's 16,756 right here, and look where our low was. At the end of Wednesday. So I didn't like that all day long. I got to be honest. And when we were on live trading today, I was saying the same thing. I didn't like how this was left unswept. After some further digging into, I did notice that both ES and Dow both swept that. So you have some sort of SMT divergence, with NASDAQ being the index that did not sweep that low. So that's just something that I'm considering at least. But we'll see. We'll see if this weekly candle can completely erase that disgusting sell-off from Wednesday. And if it does so, to me, business will carry on as usual. This could also be left open for, say, Monday of next week, right? We sweep this Monday of next week. That is our weekly wick. Let me just come back over here. Whoops. And show you guys what I mean by that. So if this candle is going to paint the way that it did, and we do get one more low, that's us getting into the bullish fair value gap that was just created on the weekly time frame. It's got to be the following week, but that would be something to at least keep an eye on and look out for. But yeah, so let's just say today's Friday, week's over. This is what the campaign says. We're going to need to take out that weekly low in order for us to dip into that bullish fair value gap. And that's something that I do anticipate at some point or another. And here's where we currently are and where we currently rejected on NASDAQ from January 3rd of 2022. There's your bearish fair value gap right there. So a lot of things align to me, but the fact that we did not close today with a bearish imbalance is pretty big time in my opinion. So okay, so before I get to these requests, I have a bunch. And if you want one, again, just you can put it either in the YouTube comments, put it on X. I have them popping right up on my little stream screen. So that's great. It's really simple that way. But I did put out a tweet earlier, and there's a bunch of them here that I want to roll through. I won't take all that long, but let's just see. Hate to ask again, can you maximize chart and look at Nike getting whacked on earnings tonight? Yeah, I could definitely look at Nike. I'll keep that one in mind. And then, do you think JPM collar is in play at 45.15 at the end of the quarter for SPX? I got to be really honest. Roller coaster. Probably about 2 years ago is when I stopped caring about the JPM collar. To me, this is a personal thing, and of course, I view myself as a very analytical person in this space. But I've just been shown more time in, time out, that a lot of the stuff that you see either in the news, on CNBC, on Twitter, JPM collar this, JPM collar that, I think a lot of it is just straight up garbage. And it's really there to kind of throw a wrench into, your game plan. And again, I never thought of this until I started just being able to read price and price itself, and that was it. And since then, a lot of these external factors that a lot of people talk about, do they line up sometimes? For sure, right? Yesterday's sell-off that we had, there's so many people just trying to justify it. Like, ultimately, to me, like, I don't care what is the cause of something, as long as I can look back to my left and I can give you like a valid or reasonable point as to why we would have sold off at a specific point. That's good enough for me. right? And again, I made a video on it yesterday, but in short, if you just take a look at this NASDAQ chart that I have on screen, right? Look, we get into this bearish imbalance on the weekly. Okay, makes sense. Also worth noting, for the entirety of Monday and Tuesday, even Wednesday, really, I think we counted two or three imbalances formed in that whole grind higher, right? So one way you can look at that is that if price were to reverse, and again, midpoint of a weekly bearish fair value gap, it's not a bad time for some sort of reversal, right? And if that to occur, how many levels of support do you have? We literally made two or three bullish imbalances on that grind higher, and that's on an hourly time frame, right? That's a decent size sample size in terms of the information that we're going to be using. So um, the fact that we move like that, sure, maybe somebody could have came out and said something, or I saw some people talking about like, oh yeah, end of year profit taking. Oh, it just magically happened at this time. Doesn't add up, right? Same thing goes for earnings. Oh, this company had terrible earnings and their stock is going bananas, like it's crazy. Uh, how do you justify that? To me, if you look at the chart and you can identify key points of liquidity where liquidity gets triggered or stop hunts get triggered, all that money that's resting in terms of that current order that's getting stopped out, that money is coming into the market as a way to fuel price to deliver at a faster rate, right? And that's to me the concept of liquidity in itself. So when we do look at Nike, we'll be able to check it out and see if any higher time frame liquidity was swept or anything like that that would justify a move. And I'm sure we could find something. So but okay, so first we have SMCI. That is a ticker that a lot of people have been interested in recently. So let's take a look at that. um, I got it down here. I just got to load it up, and I do have it charted. So, ba, 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 ba. So if you're listening right now, and you've been trading this week, what do you think? What do you think about the price action for this week? Have you felt like it was a difficult week, or have you felt like home run? You've been on the ball, no sweat whatsoever. Um, you could just comment that. And I'm just polling because I've noticed for myself that the smaller time frame uh, trading has been much more sloppy, while the higher time frame is kind of playing out as planned. So um, but as this loads up, I have the all the annotations and stuff on it. I just got to wait for it to kick in. So what's up, Sean? Thanks for joining. Is Tesla isn't on your list? If you have time, I'm interested in seeing in what you're seeing after today. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, Tesla is definitely one I want to take a look at as well. Katie just asked for Palantir. Yep, a lot of people asked about Palantir, KView, and AMD for sure. Katie just brought this up, and this is about Nike. We will definitely look. Believe Ryan said 125.50 was resting liquidity. Ryan's a really good trader. I think his ad is like at RE Trades with a Z or two. I've tagged him in posts before if you want to look, but he's a really good trader, really good understanding of the inner mechanics of how price delivers. So, and Picklewick, rough week. Yeah, it has been very sloppy. If you're looking at the indices or the key ETFs on the smaller time frame, very sloppy, very difficult in the moment to gauge direction. To me, the way that I'm seeing it is really it's I can kind of justify it too well for two directions, and if that's the case, then I typically don't do all that much of anything. So but anyways, let's get into it. Dip snipers, sup man? I think it's short city, expecting possibly slightly higher, but overall I think it's good for a short. Dip snipers, I'm not exactly sure what ticker, but whatever it is, just drop a comment. We'll check it out. But okay, here's SMCI. We got it loaded up, and again, so far so good. In the last weekly charting video that we did, I believe we did it last Friday. I had said that for me personally, I would like to see it close the weekly above this level here, right? As a result of that, from where we closed, would I've missed out on what would have been an insane trade just if you were to end up cutting it at this point? Yes, at 326, yeah, I would have missed it. But the reason I think that way is just because look, we do have a bullish volume And that's not something to scoff at, really. So, just right off the bat, and that's a weekly gap higher. So when we gap up, to me, that is showing me urgency to move higher. Okay. So even despite, obviously we made that run up here, but the fact that we did gap up, that's showing me that there is urgency to go higher. And of course, for anybody who has watched my videos or anything, my model is here in terms of low, high, retracement into discount. Here's 50%. And from that, we also had a little turtle soup where you sweep a higher time frame low and we start to run. This is clearly a problem level, and that's why I wanted to see it close above. And again, I would have missed out. I did miss out on that nice little pump here, but ultimately, here's the tricky part about this one, right? When you're looking at 50% for longs, right? What's your risk in that situation? 50% of the range. That's a lot, right? What's your reward? 50% of the range. Pretty good. I personally like to look down in here from 62 to 79 and look to my left and see if there is a bullish imbalance, in which we do have right here. But if we have that, then I feel pretty good about it. Uh, Longing this level here, could it happen? Could it work? Absolutely. I've seen it hundreds of times. Um, just I don't want to say it doesn't necessarily line up with how I like to go after it, because you could totally justify it. We are in discount, so in terms of this range, you're getting it at a cheaper price essentially. If we're going to use 50% or the midpoint of a range as your fair value, if you want to say, you're getting it below fair value in this situation, right? So it does make sense, but in terms of just how I'm gonna personally map out the trade, I would prefer not to take on such a big risk, in terms of like what would be a reasonable stop out, right? And if it's hard to come up with at that point, I'm usually like, I'm good. So, um, but in short, I mean, can this run to 357? Absolutely. Could it retrace back down into deeper into discount, fill up this little bullish imbalance here? To me, that is a possibility too. I'm overall not completely down on the market in terms of where we go next. Again, still have no imbalance formed on the daily on the downside, and with the weekly setting potentially setting a bullish imbalance going into next week. That's uh, to me a pretty good indication on where we're going to go, at least to start next year. So that's SMCI. I know, I think James had requested that one, so thanks for that, James. Um, Now to take a look, we'll head on over to Neo. Neo is another one, and for any of these tickers, a lot of them I chart. I do like 40 charts a week over the weekend, and then I kind of revisit them at the end of the week. Um, Going into to the next, and so if you ever have any like question or something like that, you could just put in the dollar sign. So in this situation, it would be dollar sign NIO at Mando Trading, and you'll kind of, I don't do every stock, but I do a lot of them. And um, Neo was one where I would have preferred it to sweep that $7. Didn't do so. We did gap up, bullish volume and balance higher on the weekly. And as a result of this, let me just pop that in here. Good. Where are we rejecting at this exact moment? Here's a bearish volume imbalance right here. Let me load it up. There you go. Okay, there's your bearish volume imbalance. Again, every move on the chart can be justified. So there's your first level right there. You have another pretty big bearish imbalance right here. Um, from this point, we do have a range that seems to be set, right? With creating an imbalance higher, to me, that is setting some sort of range. Um, again, I'm not totally interested in this, and the reason why I'm not totally interested in this is because we have relative equal lows below, and that typically will act as a magnet. Price action much too clean, sweep out those lows. And the reason, or I guess the way that I would explain it, is if you have a low that's set here, what had to have happened to drive price up the way it did? People had to be buying at that point, right? It's the only thing that makes sense, right? So now that when price comes back down into this area, the fact that it doesn't sweep this low on the second attempt, what that's telling me, let me just confirm, 701, sure. Okay, and what's this one? 7, right? So it didn't get down, didn't sweep it, right? 1 cent off. But the fact that it didn't sweep that, And look what happened following that right here. We go up again, right? So what had to have happened here? Somebody doubled down on their longs, that's for sure. Right. And if they're doubling down on their longs, to me, that's double the amount of liquidity or resting orders that can get triggered later on for stop outs. And as a result of that, like I just don't feel as comfortable in the long trade when I look down and I see we have relative equal lows. Um, but typically, when you do have relative equal lows and you wick down into that area, again, you have double the amount of liquidity just chilling out there, and we need liquidity in order to fuel the car to drive price. Um, so that's why I I personally don't love it, but that's not to say it doesn't go up to 1160. I mean, that would set the range. So I mean, it definitely has room, but you do have this level that you're currently rejecting, and this level which is untouched at the moment. So not totally sold just yet. Um, let me just keep on scrolling through. Um, I've been doing better on the swings than the day trades. They've been tough to manage lately. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think everybody would say that. And it's again, it's just the long wicks, the volatility that's incorporated with it. It is definitely been much more difficult on a smaller time frame, and really currently, it's reminding me a lot of August. So I don't know how many of you guys were trading in August or what, but August was just like this in terms of wicks, just nasty PA. You build up this nice strong move to the upside and then immediately get hit with a hammer, or vice versa. You'd be grinding lower and then just get hit with some god candle. I mean, look at the low of today on NASDAQ. We perfectly wicked down into the new week open gap, which I snagged, by the way, and I crushed it in like 2 minutes. But from that point, we wicked back up like 30 points and took off for the rest of the day. Um, those types of moves are definitely much more difficult um, uh, to justify. Dip Sniper says, "Oh, you think the indices are good for a short?" Yeah, if you want to put your reasoning as to why below, for sure. I'm just not sold yet. I call trading the small time frame starting akin to squeezing blood out of a rock. Yeah, it's been quite difficult. Uh, Raj, oh, what's up, man? INTC, sure, we could definitely take a look at that. Done well on the week when we've seen volatility. Yep. Bitcoin stoked to short miners. Yeah, Sol, we could check those out. I'm doing well. Fatih, thanks for joining up, man. Pepsi. Okay, we could do Pepsi. Uh, yeah, yeah, found opportunity for sure. It's few and far between, but Sox S, please, sure. Soul Vibes, Mando. Do you ever look at peek at MAs? It's kind of a running joke in the group, but I think MAs are the most useless indicator. Actually, not. RSI's first. RSI's garbage. Really, I any to me any indicator is just irrelevant. I don't think you need any of them. Um, but yeah, everybody kind of jokes around because when everybody was talking about all these MAs and all this stuff, I would want to yank my hair out of my head. Um, but yeah, nah, no indicators, and the two that you see on here are just time based. So I have the new week open gap, new day open gap, and the reason I have that is that they tend to be pretty powerful levels. In terms of if you're above it, you can view that as a support level. If you're below it, you can view that as a resistance level. Here's a perfect example of the new week open gap. I took this trade and posted on Twitter earlier, but there's your new week open gap. Look at that wick, right? Right into it and took off. So that's one. And then the second is a time-based indicator in which it just plots the time on my screen. So it's 8:30, which typically is a data driver. Whether it's CPI, PCE, non-farm payroll, anything, they typically come out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, and that's why I keep those times on my chart. 9:30 New York Open, to me, valuable time. It's interesting to see how price reacts at those times. You never really think about it until you have those lines on your chart, and you're like, oh shoot, respected 9:30 perfectly. Then after that, I have 1:30, which starts the PM session. So again, just looking at it from I typically look, 8:30 to about 12. Really not too much after 11. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Um, but then I don't really pick up again until 1:30. Do you miss moves as a result of that? Yes, but more often than not, price is much cleaner. From 1:30 on and 8:30 on. So, and then midnight. Midnight is a big level for futures. I know a lot of people don't trade futures, but that is a pretty big level. And again, it's just something you can back test. Like, if you were to put that on your chart and you start to see how price reacts when you get up to these specific times, it's very interesting because there is a huge correlation between time and price in the market, and I firmly believe that. So. Um, but yeah, no, so no indicators, man. Sorry, I'm not a moving average guy. So yeah, RSI, that's great. All right, let me slide over and we'll do some of these that are on here right now. Okay, so let's do Tesla first. It relatively quick because it's not all that crazy. Honestly, nothing has changed in this. We basically erased the entire drawdown from yesterday or Wednesday, whatever. Um, but here's Tesla. We're just rebooting right here. I'm checking these comments to see if I got any more. But oh, Baba. Okay, we can look at Baba too. Um, but yes. So as you can see, like literally nothing on Tesla has changed for me. Really won't change unless the imbalance down here. It's gonna pop up in a second. But 226.68. I know it's far away, but I longed this, so I'm not all that. I wouldn't be all that mad about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, just by taking a look here, weekly, very very small, if any, would form some sort of imbalance. It'll just be a couple points here, but rejection coming from this bearish fair value gap right here. Um, but yeah, I mean, to me, all is still good. Pretty volatile, but not much of anything has changed still. So targets for me personally, I have 268.94. That's buy side liquidity from October 9th. Then again, over here, September 11th of this year, 278.98 would be target two. 299.29 would complete my model. And then we have relative equal highs up here, 314.67. Again, I don't really care about this. I got to be real honest, but just to be fair and to mention this, Tesla just got upgraded on one of these big price guru people. So just worth noting at least. No, Sean, please don't encourage anyone to ask about volume. Um, but okay, so there's Tesla. I hope that helped a little bit, Sean. There, Palantir. I'm gonna run through a lot of these quickly because I got a bunch I got to do too. So anything that's really alarming, but Palantir, I'd added, for the fourth time, I re-added some shares. Oh, that's SoFi. Whoops. Well, I'll do SoFi quickly because SoFi is sweet too. Currently in as well. Come on, load this sucker up here. And again, one thing I should just say is that I'm not I trash talking anybody that uses any indicators or anything like that. Um, just to me, from what I've learned and how I apply this stuff, I just don't think that you absolutely need them. I'm not trying to say that you can't make money using them or anything like that. I'm sure you can. To me, it just made things much more difficult because I don't believe that uh, lines on the chart that move are really something that I felt comfortable like putting a substantial amount of money on in terms to take a trade. And even when I was wrong, I just didn't have like a real justification as to why I was wrong. At least now, to me, I can justify it, right? Every time I even consider taking a trade, I look from both perspectives, and if one really doesn't outweigh the other, then to me, there's just no point in pressing the button in the first place. Um, but here's SoFi. I got high hopes for this guy. I'd like to see the weekly close above this bearish imbalance. That would be a good sign to me. Also create a bullish imbalance on the weekly right here, but I ultimately want to see 1170. That would be sweet. But again, just looking from a weekly perspective, when you're looking at a weekly perspective, it might take some more time to digest. So because of that, it might not happen tomorrow, is what I'm essentially saying. So let's see, let's see. Oh, I'm in Palantir. Whoops. Let's go over to Palantir. I'm coming back for comments right now. Sorry. Um, oh, missed that Tesla trade on a too tight stop. Yeah, we looked at Tesla. We were watching that one today too. It did have a nice retracement off that morning move and set up pretty nicely for that run back to the highs. Um, but here's Palantir. Before the lines and my levels and stuff pop in, I'll show you. But you do have a bullish weekly fair value gap right here. Not the prettiest candle, to be completely honest with you, but I did add shares here. And to me, at what point would I consider selling those shares and taking the L on this? And it would just be below this. If we get a weekly close below that bullish imbalance, then to me, price could retrace lower. And at that point, I would just prefer not to fight for even. I would like to make money. So if I'm going to be wrong, I'll take the loss, and instead of holding on to something that I know from back testing and kind of making it a case to repeat this over and over again. And as a result of that, like, look, could it still bounce down here? Sure. Here's a weekly bullish order block. I just don't have any interest in holding it down here and taking more of a beating just for a chance at a bounce, right? So I think that's probably my best skill at this point, is just if it comes where the trade doesn't work out, and where doesn't it work out, that's my skill. I feel like I have a pretty good idea of where the trade might go to shit. If I don't know if I can curse on YouTube or what, but having an idea of where the trade is just no longer valid, or where probably a good time to take your loss. I think I do a pretty good job at that, and as a result of that, it kind of prevents me from taking any like disgusting, butt kicking of a loss. They're much more manageable, and yesterday, two trades stop out, and then your next trade you rip off an insane gain, and not only does it wipe out your stop losses, but you also make something on the day. So I think that's a good thing, and it's a good skill to have for sure. Let's see, I'm pulling up some more. Yep, no problem, man. Oh God, rounding top C. Somebody was trolling in the Discord, and now they're gonna all start saying this. Jeez. Yeah, 10 million tabs open. I do have 10 million tabs open, actually. All right, let me go back up here. We got a long list that I want to smash. I'll tell you right off the bat, AMD. This is going to be a quick one. AMD completed my model last week, so at that point, again, every time that either buy side or sell side is swept, I like to personally wait to see what that next candle is going to paint. If that candle paints a bullish imbalance, then from that point, I will remain bullish. If it sweeps liquidity and starts to make its way to the downside, creating some sort of imbalance to the downside, that's when I flip, and I would look for some sort of discount imbalance to be tagged. Here's AMD taking out the high, or my target in this situation, which was this high at 132.83, swept it. Actually did create the imbalance higher with a bullish volume imbalance. That's pretty interesting, and something that I would keep an eye on. But with tomorrow, as long as tomorrow's candle doesn't close below 131, I'm sorry, 131, you're gonna get a weekly bullish imbalance to the upside. Here's the part where things are getting a little messy and a little clogged up for me. So if you look at AMD, our short-term range was bullish, and we made a bullish move in that short-term range. But if we're to zoom out and look left just a little bit more, going back to November of 2021, this is pretty crazy, or January, sorry, January of 2022, we have that imbalance candle here. Look where we got into this week, and we rejected, right? Yeah, a little too perfect. So that tends to happen. That is pretty scary, but that is a level that I'm gonna keep an eye out, because that would it would totally make sense for a retracement off of this level, just to be fair. So that's what I have on AMD. So let's continue on here. All right. Okay, INTC. Let's take a look at Intel. I think there's a good chance I don't have this charted, so that's okay. Uh, okay, let's see. Intel, here we go. Load up, sucker. Here we go. Okay. Oh, thanks for sticking around. We got a bunch of people in here right now. Okay, so Intel, where are we currently? Okay. So it's going to be a situation like you have on AMD, where the higher time frame range is bearish, but you have a more recent bullish uptrend here. Um, Again, first and foremost is what I like to do is just identify what some possible draws on liquidity are, and from that point we can kind of make our or aid us in making decisions. So first and foremost, you have this high here at 52.51. That's good. Okay, next little swing high right here at 56.52. If you want to give me this arrow, that would be great. This line, whatever. Okay, right there. Good. Let's just see any imbalances in here. Okay, so here's a bearish volume imbalance or gap down. To me, that is an indication that there is some urgency to move lower, and you tell me how accurate that is. Pretty good, right? So there's a, again, bearish imbalance. This one also lines up perfectly with my model in itself. So this should be red. I don't know why the thing's not coming up right now, but here, hold on. I'll switch it in a sec. But if you want to perform my model, someone complained to me the other day that I only do bullish things, which is not, it's just not true. That's one. And two, we're currently up $2,600 since I nailed the bottom. So I'd prefer to be right than just, mixing a bearish setup, but whatever, it is what it is. But here, this is what my model would be in this situation where you have a low. Why this price run? We took out this low here with that price run. So that's my fib range, high to low. Then we get our retracement back up into discount, specifically a discount bearish imbalance. And there's your run for lows. That would be the target. And at that point of the target, after sweeping that low, I'm typically letting it run a little bit. So I will move my stop aggressively to make sure that I'm taking money out of this sucker and not letting it reverse on me. But I also like to give it a little bit of range and space. So if it does want to have that continuation imbalance down, I'm still a part of it. I'm not just immediately taking my profits right off the low being swept. For better or for worse, sometimes it works great. Other times it doesn't work all that well, and that's okay. But yeah, so that would be the initial run, and so on, so on, so on. But if we were just to zoom out and let's just look from the most recent market structure shift. Here's something that's noteworthy. I know it's very, very far away, but maybe in a couple months we can go take a look at this. We do have relative equal highs at that 69 level. Why is this relative equal highs? Really not all that close, but if you think about it, again, if somebody went short here to drive price lower, what are they doing here? They're doubling down on that, right? Those orders have not been swept. Those orders have not been triggered as stop outs, right? So to me, double the pool of liquidity above here. The market is in a constant search for liquidity. That could very well be a draw on liquidity in this particular instance. So, but Just from this initial price run, you know, I, if I'm looking at it on like a more of a smaller time frame type thing, let's just look. So what was the move that took out that high and that high right here? It was this low up to this current high. So again, another situation where range ain't set yet. Got to wait for the range to set. Yada yada yada. I know you've heard it 100 times from me, but I would prefer the range to be set. And you know what? Hold on. Let me just take a look at this. No, it didn't. Okay. I did this because if that wick was down into 50%, that's a completely different story. I would have my range low set from that candle to that high. But we haven't run into a high yet. But you might be asking, okay, like we're stuck here. Like, why is that? And if you look over here closely, I'll just zoom in and show you how important these volume imbalances are, or gap ups or gap downs. They don't play as much of a role in terms of futures, just because there's more time for active trading. It's 23 hours a day, 5 days a week. But if you take a look at a lot of these individual names that go offline at 8 and reopen at 4 o'clock in the mornings, oftentimes things do occur that would create a gap in that situation. But there it is. So if you're bullish, you want this candle to close the way it is right now. Overlay that bearish volume imbalance right there. Does that mean that we don't have to come back down into this bullish imbalance right here from this wick here to that? Not necessarily, but that would, to me, keep me in some sort of bullish mindset on that. So that's intel. I hope that was helpful there, Raj. Next up, Bitcoin. Yeah, sure, we can do Bitcoin right now. Okay, let's go on over here. I have Bitcoin done. This will be quick. So if you don't trade crypto, and just bear with me for a second. Okay, so Bitcoin. All right, let's see what we can let this load up. Yeah, I forgot to close all my tabs. Sorry, I have a lot of tabs open right now, so it's not really helping. While this loads up, let me come over here. I just want to. This is just I usually just pop them on here if I'm not really actively looking to trade, but clicking around. I'm gonna just close this for now. Just maybe it'll speed this sucker up, but let's see. Yeah, still hasn't loaded. Come on. Well, I'll tell you right. Oh, there it is. Good. Okay. So just looking at Bitcoin as a whole, I'm looking at it from the bearish perspective, from all-time highs to that low that we set back in late 2022. We have retraced back to 50%. Right. This entirety of this run has been setting the range, if you will. So the fact that we're at 50% currently, to me, that's setting our range. Now, the fact that we rejected off our first attempt and almost immediately claimed 50% yet again, a close above 50% to me would be pretty bullish. And if that's the case, I know it sounds crazy, but it everything I type pretty much sounds crazy until it happens. But I really wouldn't be all that shocked by 52K. This area here, this is a bearish imbalance, but if we look closely at this bearish imbalance, we filled it already. So this would be our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be our 7th attempt at this level. I'm not so sure how much that's going to hold. This is a pretty relatively untouched level up here, so that would be pretty crazy, but wouldn't really shock me at all. So sorry, I know you want to short those miners, oh cool. Here's a question. What's up, Flip? Yeah, we could do AVGO, we could do BYON. You got it, Raj. Thanks for joining. Soul, sorry, bro, newbie. So bullish imbalance is below because it's the discount and a pivot. No, so what a bullish imbalance would be, there's two forms. So our first form would just be a natural gap higher. That would be a bullish imbalance, right? Moving higher, and a gap in price, that would be an imbalance, right? So when price retraces back down into that level, we can view that level as somewhat of a support level. And again, same thing on the other side, a bearish imbalance. If we were to see a gap down, that would imply that there's somewhat of a resistance level being built at that gap, and when price retraces back up into that gap, we can anticipate a rejection from there. On the flip side of that, you have something called a bullish imbalance and a bearish imbalance, right? Bullish imbalances can occur in discount or in premium, doesn't matter. I personally just value the bullish imbalances that occur in discount of a range. To me, think about it. If you go to the store right now and you have the opportunity of getting something at a cheaper price, you're probably going to want to get it at a cheaper price, right? You're going to want to discount on it. Same thing would apply to, hedge funds trading something, and essentially they can move it anyways. So if that's the case, then I personally look to play those imbalances in discount, but specifically in a bullish range. Right? So right now, from the perspective I'm looking at on Bitcoin, this is a bearish range, and that's why I'm more interested in these bearish imbalances. I know, well, you're saying it's going to go higher. That doesn't mean it's bearish. That's bullish. Yeah, but I'm kind of putting a cap on where I think it could really go. I don't anticipate 69,000 occurring. If anything, to me, what would be like somewhat of a game plan. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I've been wrong many times, and I'm going to be wrong many times again. But to me, like a move kind of like this, and time wise, it's not what I'm anticipating at all. But ultimately, this is what direction I would be kind of looking at this. And again, this could take a lot of time. We're looking at uh, a weekly chart, so. But I think for bulls, I think they would be reasonable and kind of agree with me on this. I think bears would say that it's just going to zero. I'm not so sure about that, but stretch this over a long period of time. This is what I would anticipate, where you get that rejection in discount for your puts, right? You're getting cheaper shorts, or I know you're not taking puts on Bitcoin, but cheaper shorts for a retracement lower, and then your bulls, you're going to catch a bullish imbalance down here in discount for another move higher. That would just be something that I would anticipate happening there. I have one of my buddies, Ryan, who he's Captain Mara. I think he was listening before he commented, but it's just interesting to see that he's posting a lot of stuff on Mara and a lot of the stuff that the company's doing. And if you're somebody who is really into that kind of stuff, or using that type of analysis to, I guess, direct your decisions. It's pretty impressive what they're doing. Again, I don't care, either one way or the other. I do have Merit shares, so I will, just to be real, but it is pretty impressive what they got going on there. That's for sure. But what else? What else we got? What else we got? I know there's a few more up here that I think I skipped by accident. Pepsi. All right, let's take a look at Pepsi. Okay. Load up, sucker. All right. Okay, we're on Pepsi. I got to do Baba too and Roku. All right, we can look at those two. I'll remember them. Sorry, it's just I got chart requests in 3 different spots, so I'm trying to nail them all home. We're at this like an hour right now, so we'll get it done. But selfishly, I think doing this type of stuff, we're going live, showing the charts and all that, again, selfishly, it makes me better, because it makes me, or forces me to stay prepared and do what I got to do. So here's Pepsi. Not all that sure I have that charted, but just off the top, we took out these lows here, with what price run from this high here down to that low here. Here is your, just get these fibs on. Okay, so I'll use the wick here. We'll just go from the absolute high to low. Okay, look where we are running into some trouble here. Interesting, right? So that is right at discount of your bearish price range, right? And yeah, so far so good. I don't love it. I mean, it could bounce here, but with it being a bearish price range, and I see that we do have some more lows over to are left that could get snagged here. But again, this is a weekly chart. It could take time. That's the biggest thing. I think more people run into problems with the contracts they buy rather than the actual direction. But no problem there. Where is this comment from Soul? I had that on there for a while. So Soul, I hope that helped a little bit when I kind of shook out that what I look at in the model in itself. Um, but yeah, Pepsi wouldn't necessarily be bullish on this unless it were to take out 161, and from that point, I would consider differently. But so yeah. Socks S. Okay, so this is like semiconductor short. Um, not all that sure on that one either. We'll see. Okay, here's socks. Um, yeah, I just saw somebody. Don't no volume chatter, please. I've had enough of that. Um, Here it is. Okay. Ugh. Smoked. Yeah. Yeah. Just to be honest, like no, like less than zero interest in this. Um, Again, this I guess goes back to the RSI debate. Like it could stay here for a while. It's not necessarily forced to get a push at any point. We did take out a zillion higher time frame lows, but ultimately it's a combination of multiple names in which, again, AMD is kind of a waiting game for me. NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA had a good day today following the disaster from the previous. I think that would be more valuable to look at the sector as a whole. And I don't even know what the weightings are or anything like that, but to look at some of the big names in that specific sector, I think would be much more valuable than just looking at this overall. Kind of how, to me, even though for the longest time I was only trading Nasdaq or the S&P, I was still charting out Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, um, Netflix, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, all these names. And the reason why is just have a good idea of like, where other things are, where are some of these heavily weighted names specifically. And here's an interesting time, to be honest. This lines up well because, like I said, a lot of the names that we talked about, all of them with the exception of Tesla, have taken out that target high that I had on them to complete my model. And that's my pinned tweet right now. If you want to go through them, I post them on there. And so far, Tesla's the only lagger and the only one that hasn't completed the model. And again, that model completes at like 299. But with that in the back of my head, knowing that all of these names took out that higher time frame liquidity, one, it's a waiting game on pretty much all of them. I mean, Netflix just did it this week. AMD did it last week, so it is a waiting game there. Apple did it last week, waiting game. NVIDIA did it a couple weeks ago with this move here, and you did get the retracement lower, but you didn't get a bearish imbalance down. And when this chart decides it wants to load, you're going to notice that while we did perfectly hold on to this bullish volume imbalance, we did not get into discount. And that's what crossed me up a little bit. Here it is. So check this. I know it looks beautiful, but if we look really, really closely, check that. That's perfect, right? But no 50%. So without 50%, to me, is the range set? I don't know. We're going to find out. The fact that we did gap up this week is pretty interesting. This level here is a bearish order block that I have right now. So getting into an order block can absolutely act as a speed bump in terms of where we're going to run towards. But to me, 505.48 is the buy side liquidity. And at some point, I think this candle is going to act as a pretty nice bearish breaker eventually when price decides that it wants to move down below that low here. So I wouldn't be viewing it as, I wouldn't be looking to play my model in that situation, I guess you could say. Because if this candle is to come up and let's say tomorrow it does, it gets over 505, right? I'm not saying it does, but if it does, right? If we sweep that high, from that point, I got to move. Okay, let's go boom, boom, and have my high fib set here. And then if we get back down below this, that's a bearish market structure shift, right? So, um, but yeah, to go back to the Sox S question, um, still a lot of unknowns. If I'm bullish on uh, semis or Nvidia specifically, I want this bullish volume imbalance. You can see it. It's a minimal gap. But if this is an up close, it's going to look like a gap from here to here, right? Much different looking. But I'd like to see it close with an up close, that way forming that bullish volume imbalance, so that if next week we do retrace into it, we can view it as some sort of support. So that would be Sox S. What's up, Ape? Ape, you still here? Sorry about that. I just had a long list of these that I want to get done. Uh, MD, Azadul Islam. I did Tesla a little earlier. So when this ends, if you want to go back, I've already done that. But in short, nothing has changed for me on that. And Solana. Okay, so we got like 5 more. I'll crush these 5, and then we'll. SoFi, apparently, Kathy Wood's buying a lot last 2 weeks. Great. Um, no, I'm joking. Yeah, I think SoFi looks pretty good for a little bit longer. So definitely something that I'm going to hold on to my shares. I still have them. But let's see what else we got. NVO and PanW. Okay, definitely don't have either of these done, but that's all right. I'll do them briefly. But if you're watching, and I post a lot of videos. Next week, I actually have a lot of videos, like previously recorded stuff coming out. I think it's pretty informative on how I trade and stuff like that. So if anybody's interested on that, it'll be out next week. I have pretty much one coming out a night, and it's just because I don't really think I'm gonna make any videos next week. I don't know how good price is gonna be with that last week coming in, but I just right off the bat, I just want to show you guys. Here's low to high, discount retracement into a bullish imbalance, check, and just show you how my model completes. There we go. Thank you. Boom, boom. There it is. There's your discount retracement into a bullish imbalance. I need the bullish imbalance there. I'm not just trading off of fibs. I don't even use the fibs really, but just as a way to measure a range. And you'll notice that when price gets into discount of a bullish structure, why am I using this price run? Well, that was the run that took out this high, previous high, right? So by taking that out, retracement down, take out the high, my model is complete at that point. So now let me just go here and I'll show you the most recent little run that we had. So again, what was the run that took out that high? Low to, come on, give me this. There it is. Low to high. Oh my God. Here it is. Boom. Okay. Discount retracement, bullish imbalance. Check. This is my model, folks, right here. Bingo. Boom. Discount bullish imbalance. Check. Run for the highs. Dunzo. Okay. Ready? Think we go 3 for 3? Okay. What was the price run that took out that high right here? Low to high. Retracement into a discount bullish imbalance. So far, so good. I'd be looking here. So that's just on the short term. I don't know. Are we at all-time highs on this? If we are, I really don't have all that much to offer. To be honest, it's just something that haven't cracked the code on yet. When we get to all-time highs on things, I really need information to my left. If I don't have it, then kind of SOL. But yeah, so again, you just saw my model work 3 times in a row right there. If you want, I have the video on YouTube if you want to learn it. But I think it's very, very simple, and I think it's something that makes sense to a lot of people because it is. It's something that you can go back and back test hundreds of times. Like in the Discord group, I just have a channel dedicated to it the Mando model, and I just anytime I see these happen, I just post them in there, and there's hundreds of examples, and uh, you know that one, it's great that it actually works, but two, it's going to increase your confidence in whatever setup or strategy that you have. So if you have something that's set in stone and something that you truly believe in that it works, and you can back test it and you can prove it, then you're gonna feel much better about taking trades in that situation. Um, so what else we got here? Pan W. All right, let's look at this one. I keep thinking of that South Park Into the Pandaverse. Those commercials they're playing all the time. So when I see Pan W, that's what I'm thinking. All right, let's see it. Pan W. Palo Alto. Oh, you know what? I used to look at this one a while ago, actually. It's been a while. I'm not so sure I have it charted, but um, we'll take a look anyway. Okay, so I'm not sure if this one's at all-time highs either. And again, that's something that is kind of necessary for just the way that I trade. So but here, first and foremost, let's map the range. Why am I using this range? We took out these relative equal highs right here. Again, here's another example, relative equal highs, right? That second high didn't take liquidity, it left it. And typically that's going to act as somewhat of a magnet because there is quite a bit of liquidity here. And after taking it, what do? We create a bullish imbalance that would confirm direction at that point. So here is, let me just get this rectangle. I just want to put this to be fair. So we do have a bullish imbalance right at discount. This week we did gap down to start the week. Could that be the imbalance to set the range and get us to retrace back down into here? Quite possible. Let me just check to our left. I don't know, again, if this is all-time highs. I'm kind of out of luck, but let's just see. Let this sucker load up, and when it does load up, it'll be helpful. I have a few. Yeah, this is all-time highs. Yeah, so unfortunately, I wish I could be more helpful in this situation, but the fact that this weekly candle did gap down, that could be the imbalance that sets this range, right? But does that mean that you have to trade it down? No. If you want to just wait for the retracement into the bullish imbalance, you can absolutely do that too. That's how I used to trade. I wouldn't short in this bullish trend, right? Even though I thought price was going to go down to discount, I still wouldn't do it. I would just wait for it to happen, and then from there I'd look to long it. But at this point here specifically, range wise, you're dealing with, what is that, about $12 in what your risk would be for a potential 25 and 18, so 43 points. Does it make sense to you? Everybody's different. Everybody's got different risk criteria, so it might look different for everybody in that situation, and that's fine. But that to me is what my risk reward would be on the trade. So again, even if you lose, as long as it doesn't get out of hand where you're risking way more than what your possible win could even be, then it's got to check the box. It's got to make sense. One thing that I don't love here is, just to be fair, again, here's to this. We do have these relative equal lows right there, right? So you see that second low did not take out the previous candle's low. So the fact that it didn't do that, right? Somebody had to go long here to stop price in its tracks to continue to move higher. And what they had to do here, right? They were protecting these orders here. So if the orders didn't get triggered and those stops weren't taken out, there's double the amount of liquidity at that point. Also worth noting that right here, it was tested, but here's a bullish volume imbalance. Okay, ready? Retracement into it, take off, right? So again, those gap ups and such, to me, they are showing me that there is some urgency to move higher, and it can be backed up again with a million charts. Even here, why did we catch this bounce here? Ready? From this high right here to that candle's low, that is a bullish imbalance. So there's your retracement into it. There it's going, right? So that's why I say, I don't like any of these indicators. I think that a lot of them are just useless and unnecessary. And again, I would use the concepts that I use and just reading price to back up every claim that I make, right? I personally believe that any move that occurs on the chart, anybody who uses this type of ideology can absolutely justify any move that happens on the chart, right? What about this one, Mando? Where did that come from? Well, right here. Look, wick. Oh, come on, give me the box. There it is. Boom, boom. Ta-da. Retracement into a bullish imbalance. Take off, right? So that's just me. That's why I don't use any of the indicators or anything like that. But okay, so let's go. AVGO. Okay, so AVGO. I don't know if my buddy Cad is in here right now, but Cad's in the group and he absolutely cranked AVGO. He brought this up at like 750, and it just obviously went berserk. So shout out to Cad. You should follow him if you're not already. But let's load up AVGO real quick. I'm gonna look at the FRO moves comprehensible. JC, I apologize. If is FRO you're talking, it's like a ticker. I know it sounds crazy, but I really don't know. I don't know what FRO is standing for in that situation. But yeah, we can go through it, man. Bro, slay. What am I slaying there, soul? But here's AVGO. Again, I wish it was a little more helpful, but we are at all-time highs on this thing. So I don't know if I'm going to be all that helpful. One thing to note is this weekly candle gap down, right? This is a weekly gap down. Right here was the close of last week, and our open was down here, right? So that is a gap down. I know it can be hidden or it looks a little more difficult to identify, but that's, I don't want to say basic candle reading, but it really is like previous close would be here and open is there, right? So while we're painting a green week, we still did gap down. Did we take out that high? Yeah, we did. Okay, so we took it out very, very small, but we took out the previous week's high, and so far we're tracing down a little bit. It is just essentially one large imbalance right now. Typically, these like to get filled up, but I would prefer not to dabble in something that I don't really have all that much information to my left in terms of highs, right? I don't have any more targets for buy side liquidity. But yeah, it's a pretty big range. So sorry, I wish I had better from that. But yes, O and FRO. Yeah, we can look at those for sure. Let me just rattle off a few more. We got a couple here. BYON. Let's take a look at BYON. I don't think I've ever seen this one either. See, like a lot of you guys, not a bad thing. It's just there's so many names that I would never even think about looking at, and that's why I shout out to where is he? Wowzer. He was in here the other day or last week, I guess, and he brought up Upstart, and that's the only reason I looked at Upstart. And it right now it's up like 130% on my cons, so I owe him one. Oh wow, okay. I don't know what Beyond is, but pretty good. So this model or this setup here would apply much better to Ryan's model than my model. And Ryan is using, or he trades more off of liquidity sweeps. I typically like to see the retracement into discount imbalance and go from there, right? But just off the top of the bat, I mean, yeah, just to be fair, this is a bearish market structure. So here is your high to your low. Currently about to get into this discount bearish imbalance. We have two. So already here's one. Come on, give me my rectangle. Here it is. Boom to boom. Okay. So there's one. Should be red. The thing's not popping up right now. And here's two. Right here. Come on. Here it is. Here's number two. Bingo. Okay. Both of these should be red, but you get the picture. We have buy side right here. very small swing high at 27.68. Let me just look left and see. Whoa, baby. Okay. Um, dang, that's crazy. Um, believe it or not, this setup is a lot like Upstart. So let's just see. Low. Let's just do full range low. Okay, hello. Bingo. Okay, that's good. No, it's reloading, rebooting. Oi. All right, let's let this boot up. But but yeah, not a bad find there, James. Um, okay, here. I think I accidentally clicked the back button on the mouse. Um, yeah, don't don't really love it all that much. I changed my mind. It was like the one you brought up the other day. Um, just not really all that fluid. I wouldn't be bullish until it took out that 39, and then from that point, I would still want a retracement into discount. But um, yeah, I thought we were going to line up better with 79%, and then really a bullish imbalance down there, and it's not really there. So what else we got? Solana. Oh, what's up, Dallas? Dallas Banker. I see you on Twitter. I did Palantir, so when this ends, if you want to just pop back in there, nothing all that crazy though, to be honest. But I am in shares. Solana, let's see. We'll do Solana. We got a couple left. I'm running out of gas here, but I'll get them done. I really should close out. Next time I'll close out my tabs. I didn't know it was going to cause this much of a ruckus. Anytime, whether it's Discord or whether it's here, they just get into it just slows everything down. Warzel, what's up, man? I saw you hit me up on you commented something on Twitter. Can you do CF? Yeah, I can do CF for sure. Just give me a second. I got a couple more that I want to run into. Picklewick, you got it. You're the man. Thanks for joining in here. So yeah, here's just the updated list. Let's go Solana, STNE from Patronage, Fro, O, Palantir already got to, CF, and then I think I'm probably gonna be done there. So let's just rattle these up. Oh, X Trader, shoot. X Trader, if you're still here, drop me a comment and let me know. I forgot to do your Baba. Sorry. I bought myself the new MacBook just because of the lagging of the charts. I have too many tabs. Yeah. I need a new computer for sure. This has been an ongoing thing for sure here. So, okay. So shoot. Oh, I wanted Solana. Yeah, this thing is just as slow as hell right now. I got the fan pumping on this thing too and everything. All right, come on, let's go Solana. If the computer prohibits this from going on any longer, I apologize in advance. But worst case, if we don't get this in a minute or so, then I'm going to, I could just chart them and post them. But hold on, let me just see if that works. I want to cut out some of these tabs real quick. Okay. All right, should be good. Let's get rid of Laurel. Yeah, no, my computer really never has. It just had one bad stretch a couple weeks back, and then it was fine. It was just like, I don't know if it was just overdoing it. There's just one little stretch on Discord where it was a little choppy, and then on what's it called? And then now here, but oh come on, damn it! The Dodgers just got the pitcher I wanted the Mets to get. That's great. Are you kidding me? Unbelievable! I gotta text my dad. It's unbelievable. All right. Look, this is just not cooperating right now. I apologize, but I will. I'll tweet them like right now. I'm just gonna pop off here and I'll tweet them right away. So sorry about that. I'll try and be like give more analysis than just a chart, but really quick. Oh, Fatih, yeah, I'll post those two, man. Um, Yeah, I don't really trade crypto much, but I follow it for sure. What's your QQQ plan for tomorrow? You might have already said it, so no problem if you don't want to. Yeah, so flag. I think once I shut this down in about a minute, you could just watch the replay back. It was the first thing that I let off with, so you won't have to do too much search in there. But um, does it happen that monthly untouched bearish imbalances get passed without retracing on a monthly timeline, like taking 1 to 2 months? Um, I'm not exactly following your question, but if you're talking about um, like if you're to look at something from a higher time frame, like a weekly or a monthly time frame, to me, what that tells me is just it, it the trade just might take a while, right? You know, because you see us hitting a nice level on the weekly, right? That doesn't necessarily you want to take zero DTEs or weekly contracts, right? You want to look longer because the trade might take longer for it to digest and do what it's supposed to do or do what you anticipate it to do. But I always think that's a problem. That was really my biggest problem in terms of swinging options. It was just like, all right, how far out do I go? Do I really want to put X amount of money on it when, over one weekend something crazy could happen and just wipe me out with a substantial amount of money because leaps are more expensive. So, like higher time frame, you have a monthly bearish red candle imbalance. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Does it happen that monthly untouched bearish amounts get passed without retracing? Oh, so you're saying like yeah. So to me, when price gets up into those, it does take a while. I don't really know how many I can go back and back test that have actually gotten through in just one shot. But I think that was the question there. But all right, I'll crack out some of these names and I'll post them up there. And yeah, so thanks for joining. I will. Oh, cool, Fatih, nice. But good luck tomorrow. I'll catch everybody probably like Sunday or Saturday night. All right, see ya.